It's a shocking claim, but INFJs can indeed become cold-hearted. This controversial statement may leave some skeptical, yet this video will delve into the 10 signs that indicate an INFJ is growing cold-hearted. We'll explore how INFJs, known for their empathy and compassion, can evolve into a state of emotional detachment and why this happens. So fasten your mental seatbelts and prepare your mind for a journey of self-discovery. First off, we have the guarded and untrusting INFJ. Picture a fortress with walls built high and strong, not to keep people out, but to protect what's within. That's an INFJ for you, especially one who's been worked over one too many times. They have an uncanny ability to notice everything, to see the slightest of changes in behavior, the faintest of insincerities. And though they may not speak out, rest assured, they've noticed. This guarded nature, it's not a whim, it's their shield, their defense mechanism. They've been through situations that have made them wary, made them question the intentions of those around them. They've hit their breaking point. And guess what? They're not going to just keep taking it. So they put up walls, they become guarded, they become untrusting. This guarded nature, a result of past experiences, is the first sign of an INFJ turning cold-hearted. Next, we delve into the isolating world of an INFJ. Imagine, if you will, a person who is constantly drained by the unending demands of those around them. Picture the relentless taking, the disregard for their own needs and desires. This is the reality for many INFJs, those inherently empathetic souls who find themselves exploited time and again. They're consumed by a mental exhaustion that's unfathomable to most. What's the natural response? Isolation. INFJs retreat into their inner world, a sanctuary where they can recharge and regroup. They create a fortress of solitude, not out of a desire for loneliness, but as a means of self-preservation. It's here, in this self-imposed seclusion, that the INFJ begins to harden, to protect themselves against further depletion. But remember, this isolation is not born out of malice. Rather, it is a survival instinct, a response to the relentless taking. This isolation, a self-defense mechanism, is another sign our INFJ is becoming cold-hearted. Moving on, we encounter the insensitive INFJ. Now, this isn't a trait that emerges out of the blue. No, it's born of repeated hurt and the sting of affections unreturned. When an INFJ extends their heart, only to have it rebuffed or ignored, the pain is intense. It's as if a piece of their soul has been dismissed, deemed unworthy, so they adapt, they erect a wall around their heart, a barrier of insensitivity. This isn't about being cruel or unfeeling, it's about survival. It's about protecting the core of who they are from further damage. It's about ensuring that the next time they extend their heart, they're ready for the potential impact of rejection. So, if you find an INFJ who seems aloof or uncaring, remember this, it's not about you. It's about them, protecting themselves. This insensitivity, a shield against hurt, is yet another sign of a cold-hearted INFJ. Fifth on our list, the INFJ who stops giving. Imagine a well that's constantly drawn from but never replenished. Eventually it runs dry. That's exactly what happens when an INFJ continually gives to those who only take. These are the people who drain them, the scavengers, the buzzards feasting on their emotional roadkill. The INFJ, once a beacon of empathy and compassion, finds themselves parched. They've filled everyone else's cup, but their own remains empty. And when they're down, instead of a helping hand, they get a swift kick. So they stop giving. They withdraw. It's not out of bitterness, but self-preservation. They're protecting their emotional well-being, guarding what little they have left. They're learning to say no, to put themselves first. This isn't selfishness, it's survival. Withdrawing from giving, a sign of self-preservation, is another marker of a cold-hearted INFJ. Next up, the brutally honest INFJ. How does a personality known for its empathy and compassion morph into a brutally honest critic? Well, it's a survival response. When an INFJ's feelings are repeatedly disregarded, they may resort to brutal honesty, no longer tiptoeing around others' feelings. It's not about being rude or unkind, but rather about self-preservation. After all, if others don't seem to care about their feelings, why should they spare theirs? It's a protective shield, a way of saying, your feelings are no longer my responsibility. This doesn't come naturally to an INFJ. They are, by nature, empathetic and sensitive. But when pushed to their limits, they can turn this empathy off like a switch, becoming cold and detached. It's a radical change, a stark contrast to their usual caring selves. So, when an INFJ starts speaking their mind without sugarcoating or mincing words, it's a sign. A sign that they've had enough. This brutal honesty, a reaction to past hurt, is another sign of a cold-hearted INFJ. 7th, we have the wrongly labeled INFJ. Imagine this scenario. An INFJ, who's been constantly taken advantage of, finally decides to stand their ground. They begin to say no, to protect their own interests, to stop being the sacrificial lamb. But what happens? They're met with labels, tagged with personality disorders or mental illnesses. This isn't an uncommon scenario. It's a harsh reality many INFJs face when they start to assert themselves. It's as if the world only accepted them when they were subservient, when they were offering themselves up for exploitation. But the moment they put their foot down, they're stigmatized, cast aside with labels that stifle their voice. This, my friends, is a clear sign of an INFJ turning cold-hearted, not because they want to, but because they've been pushed to. It's a defense mechanism, a shield against the accusations and labels. This wrongful labeling, a result of standing up for themselves, is yet another sign of an INFJ becoming cold-hearted. 8th on our journey, the departing INFJ. It's a common sight, really. INFJs, drained from the constant use of their emotional energy, begin to put distance between themselves and others. They've been there for everyone, listening, understanding, comforting, but who's been there for them? The answer, sadly, often comes back as a resounding silence. So they leave. They withdraw. They retreat into themselves, seeking solace in their own company. It's not an act of hatred or anger, but rather a desperate attempt at self-preservation. They've been the shoulder to cry on, the pillar of support for so long that they've forgotten what it feels like to not carry the weight of the world on their shoulders. They're tired. Tired of the noise, the drama, the emotional exhaustion. They yearn for tranquility, for peace, for a moment of respite. This act of leaving, a desperate search for peace, is another sign of a cold-hearted INFJ. 9th, we have the silent INFJ. A unique and intricate sign of a cold-hearted INFJ is their profound silence. This silence is not a mere absence of words, but a stern testament to their realization that their words often fall on deaf ears. They speak, they share, but the echo of their thoughts meets only the walls of indifference. This is not a retreat, but a survival tactic, a shield against the dismissal of their thoughts and feelings. This silence, a result of being unheard, is another sign of a cold-hearted INFJ. 10th, we have the INFJ with obligatory hobbies. Imagine a hobby, something you once loved, now feels like just another item to tick off your to-do list. This is the reality for many INFJs who are becoming cold-hearted. They're constantly on edge, waiting for the next disappointment to drop, unable to find comfort or joy in what used to be their escape. These hobbies, once a source of pleasure and relaxation, are now seen as obligations, something that must be done rather than something they want to do. It's as if they can't get too comfortable, because the moment they do, things start to go sideways again. It's like a dark cloud hanging over their heads, turning their passion into a chore. This isn't a sudden change, but a gradual transformation, a subtle shift from enthusiasm to obligation. These obligatory hobbies, a sign of disillusionment, mark the final sign of a cold-hearted INFJ. That's it for our journey into the cold-hearted INFJ. But the journey doesn't end here. This is just the beginning of a deeper understanding. This is where you, our viewers, come into the picture. We encourage you to share your thoughts, feelings, and experiences in the comments below. Did you identify with any of the signs we discussed? Do you see these traits in yourself or someone you know? Remember, understanding is the first step towards change. This isn't about labeling or stigmatizing, but opening a conversation for understanding and growth. We're all in this together, learning from each other, supporting each other. So let's keep the conversation going. Remember, you're not alone in this journey. Let's grow together.